Hi, my name is Jenna Boone, and I will be discussing What You Pawn, I Will Redeem by Sherman Alexie. A bit of background on the story. Sherman Alexie is a Native American poet and author who grew up on the Spokane Indian Reservation in Washington State. Throughout his life, Alexie and his family dealt with addiction, mental illness, and poverty, all of which are constant themes throughout his work. Our story, What You Pawn, I Will Redeem, was first published in the April 2003 edition of The New Yorker. Later that same year, it was also published in a collection titled 10 Little Indians. A brief synopsis of the story. What You Pawn, I Will Redeem is a first-person narrative told by Jackson Jackson, a homeless Native American man. Jackson happens to stumble upon a pawn shop in which his grandmother's stolen powwow regalia is being sold. Jackson is told that he can purchase the regalia for $999, and thus he begins a 24-hour quest to come up with the money, with the help of a few friends. Jackson tries panhandling, selling newspapers, buying lottery tickets, and various other techniques to earn money, but each time he receives more money, he seems to find a reason to spend it on something or someone else. In the end, Jackson is only able to come up with $5, which is the same amount that he had when he began his quest. Regardless, the shop owner agrees to sell him the regalia. Before moving forward, I want to address the focus of this presentation. I want to help you in deciding how you will approach your English 102 signature assignment. So as a reminder, the prompt for that assignment is to identify a tradition, cultural assumption, socioeconomic circumstance, or belief system that shapes a character's experience or identity. I've identified a few themes and passages that might help you address that prompt, and I will present those to you as we move forward. To start, I've selected two different themes from this story that I think will be useful for the signature assignment, although there are numerous other themes that could work as well. The first theme is the idea of homelessness. Jackson is not just physically homeless in the story, however. He's also culturally homeless. His quest seems to be representative of not only his desire to reclaim the physical regalia of his grandmother, but to also reclaim his cultural identity as a Spokane Indian. The next theme is the idea of stereotyping. Jackson addresses, embodies, and at sometimes even attempts to subvert the numerous stereotypes of Native American people. Right off the bat, Jackson introduces himself to readers as a college dropout, a previous blue-collar worker, a person who went crazy, an absentee father, and a current alcoholic homeless person. In this way, Alexie seems to be addressing these various stereotypes up front in a hyperbolic manner. I also have a few passages that I think will help you with your signature assignment as well. The first comes right at the beginning of the story. It reads, I grew up in Spokane, moved to Seattle 23 years ago for college, flunked out after 2 semesters, worked various blue and bluer collar jobs, married 2 or 3 times, fathered 2 or 3 kids, and then went crazy. Piece by piece, I disappeared. I've been disappearing ever since. In this passage, Jackson presents all of the stereotypical Native American roles with which he aligns. He presents himself with a very candid and honest tone in this section, and ends by explaining that he's disappearing, as if he is unsure of who he really is outside of those stereotypes. The next passage reads, I am living proof of the horrible damage that colonialism has done to us skins, but I'm not going to let you know how scared I sometimes get of history and its ways. I'm a strong man, and I know that silence is the best method of dealing with white folks. In this part of the story, Jackson is addressing the idea of cultural homelessness and the lack of identity that he and his many Native American friends feel. Here, he seems to imply that, through his very unreliable first-person narrative, he will disclose only the parts of the story that he feels safe and comfortable sharing. Storytelling is a major part of Native American culture, and Jackson is sure to protect what he can from the people who have disintegrated his culture. This next excerpt from the story is actually a piece of dialogue, and it comes when Jackson and his friends are first in the pawn shop after discovering the regalia. Right before this quote, Jackson's friend Sharon threatens to get the police involved over the stolen regalia. To that, the pawnshop broker responds, "Well, I suppose you could go to the cops," said the pawnbroker. but I don't think they'd believe a word you said. He sounded sad about that, as if he was sorry for taking advantage of our disadvantages. The pawnshop owner here seems to immediately address the fact that the police would be unlikely to believe a person like Jackson in his situation. Thus, he's acknowledging the prejudicial system that's working against Native Americans and that is stripping them of their culture. This final passage is from the very end of the story, after Jackson has won over the pawnshop broker and received his grandmother's regalia. It reads, "I knew that solitary yellow bead was part of me. I knew I was that yellow bead in part. Outside, I wrapped myself in my grandmother's regalia and breathed her in. I stepped off the sidewalk and into the intersection. Pedestrians stopped, cars stopped, the city stopped. They all watched me dance with my grandmother. I was my grandmother dancing." Finally, Jackson is triumphant in his quest, and now that he has won back his grandmother's regalia, he feels that he's also won back his culture. He claims, or at least he imagines, that the world around him freezes to a halt because he has finally achieved his goal of reclaiming his own identity. And here I have a few citations for you. One will point you to this story within our textbook, and the other is a bit of biographical information on Sherman Alexie. I hope you find this presentation helpful. Thank you.